Do you ever watch people on social media filming themselves while giving food to homeless people and wonder what is really happening in that moment? Is it compassion or is it performance? Are they serving human need or feeding a deeper need to be seen as generous, moral, and admirable? That question takes us into the psychology of communal narcissism. Social and personality psychologists Jochen Gebauer, Konstantin Sedekides, Bas Verplanken, and Gregory Mayo introduced this idea to explain a form of narcissism that does not present itself through obvious vanity, dominance, or bragging about success. Instead, it presents itself through the image of moral goodness. The communal narcissist still wants admiration, superiority, and special status, but seeks these rewards by appearing unusually caring, selfless, helpful, warm, or ethically elevated. This is what makes communal narcissism so much more difficult to detect than the more familiar version. The person may not say, "I am more intelligent than everyone here," or "I deserve more than other people." Instead, the message becomes, "I care more than others. I am the most compassionate person here," or "No one gives like I do." The self remains at the center, but the language becomes moral rather than openly grandiose. In other words, the person is not simply doing good. The person needs to be seen as exceptionally good. Social media gives this personality style a perfect stage. Platforms reward visibility, reaction, applause, and image management. They allow people to turn values into performance and kindness into content. In a study on narcissism and social media, Kristinsdottir, Gylfason, and Sigurvinsdottir found that communal narcissism was associated with greater use of Instagram and Twitter, a stronger concern for feedback, more sharing behavior, and more favorable ratings of one's own self-presented content. Their findings suggested that communal narcissism was tied not only to posting, but to the desire for validation through posting. That is where the issue becomes morally uncomfortable. Feeding a homeless person is, objectively, a good act. But if the act is staged, framed, edited, uploaded, and emotionally packaged for applause, the meaning of the act becomes more complicated. The question is no longer only, did this person help? It also becomes, who was this act really for? In everyday language, some people would call this narcissistic supply. That's the attention, admiration, and emotional reinforcement that help maintain a grandiose self-image. While that phrase is more common in popular psychology than in formal trait theory, it captures something very real about the social reward system involved. The person may be helping another human being, but they may also be feeding a psychological hunger to be admired for helping. Still, a serious psychological reading must remain fair. Not everyone who films a charitable act is a communal narcissist. Some people record kindness to inspire others, promote fundraising, build trust, or document real service. Research on narcissism and social media more broadly suggests a positive association, especially for grandiose narcissism. But the effect is not so large that every visible act of compassion should be treated as fake. Jessica McCain and W. Keith Campbell, in their meta-analytic review, found that grandiose narcissism is positively related to several forms of social media behavior, including posting and self-presentation. But the relationships are moderate rather than absolute. Social media can amplify narcissistic motives, but it is not a diagnostic shortcut. What makes communal narcissism distinct is that the self-image of being good often exceeds the actual reality of helping behavior. In a multi-method study, Neerlich, Gebauer, Sedekides, and Scholl found that communal narcissism was positively related to subjective prosociality, meaning people high in communal narcissism saw themselves as especially prosocial. But it was unrelated to objective prosociality, meaning they were not actually more prosocial when behavior was measured directly. In simple language, communal narcissists tend to believe and present that they are far more caring than the evidence justifies. Adolescent research points in the same direction. Clinical psychologist Christopher Berry and colleagues found that communal narcissism in adolescence was linked to self-reported prosocial behavior, but also to peer-reported aggression and negative peer perceptions. That finding is revealing because it shows how the public self-image of goodness can coexist with interpersonal abrasiveness. A person may describe themselves as generous and caring, while the people around them experience something very different. More recent personality research also complicates this saintly image. Work by Mikhail Ragoza and colleagues suggests that once communal warmth is statistically separated from the narcissistic component, communal narcissism fits more clearly within the broader narcissism structure and can even predict being liked less and showing lower objective prosociality. This matters because it tells us not to confuse the language of care with the reality of care. Moral self-presentation can look soft on the surface while still being organized around status, entitlement, and self-importance underneath. This is also where the idea of moral grandstanding becomes relevant. Joshua Grubbs and colleagues have shown that status-oriented motives can shape public moral discourse, including on social media. Their research found that dominance-oriented moral grandstanding motivations predicted greater conflict with others and greater status-oriented social media behavior. That does not mean every moral statement online is hollow. It means moral talk can become a vehicle for status seeking. Communal narcissism thrives in that exact space, where public goodness becomes a performance of rank rather than an expression of genuine care. So, when we see someone filming themselves doing charity, the wisest response is neither naive admiration nor instant cynicism. It is closer observation. Does the camera serve the cause, or does the cause serve the camera? Is the vulnerable person being helped with dignity or used as emotional scenery? Does the helper disappear once the image is posted, or is there real consistency behind the performance? These are the kinds of questions communal narcissism teaches us to ask. In the age of social media, goodness is easier to display than ever before. That is not always a bad thing. Public acts of care can raise awareness, mobilize help, and model generosity. But social media also makes it easier for people to convert compassion into branding and morality into applause. Communal narcissism reminds us that not every display of kindness is rooted in care. Sometimes the person is not only feeding the hungry. Sometimes they are feeding an identity, an audience, and a need to be seen as the most generous soul in the room. In the end, communal narcissism reminds us that not every public display of kindness comes from the same place. Some acts are rooted in genuine care. Others are shaped by the need to be seen, praised, and emotionally fed through the image of goodness. In the age of social media, where morality can be performed as easily as it can be practiced, learning to tell the difference has become an important psychological skill. If this video gave you something to think about, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next deep dive into psychology, human behavior, and the hidden patterns of the mind.